to today's episode of Velocity Kinetics. We're recording this today on the 15th of September, not long after a lot of the hoo-ha about the final Grand Tour episode has come out. It might seem weird to refer to it as hoo-ha, given how much my younger self liked Top Gear, and I'll explain my feelings towards it, but I have to concur with the general sentiment that it is the end of an era. Now, Top Gear came back, I believe it was 2002 it came back, and it didn't have the trio that we grew to finally love, of Clarkson, Hammond and May. It was a different presenter in May's place the first time. It was either 02 or 03, so I was 12 or 13 when it came back. And when Top Gear came back, it was very much a car show. It wasn't an entertainment show, it was a factual-ish program, is how I would describe it. As in, it was clear the guys were passionate about cars, and the cars were the focus, apart from the star in a reasonably priced car, where the celebrity was the then focus, and then their sort of interest or not in cars. Over time, the way Top Gear progressed, it changed from being a factual-ish show to being an entertainment show. I loved Top Gear back when it was still a fairly niche motoring program, and without meaning to sound like a hipster on the subject, I liked it before it was cool to like Top Gear. And why did I like Top Gear? Because I found a form of acceptance. Now, I'd always been a petrol head, loved my cars, and like I said, from when I was little watching the Formula 1, always having a toy car in my pocket or in my school bag. But a group of us at secondary school, we all loved our cars, and it sort of, I mean, we sort of bonded anyway through our collective weirdness, shall we say. But it sort of gave us something to collectively be weird about. And then likewise the subsequent magazine, well, I won't say subsequent because that implies it came after the TV programme. I believe the magazine had kept going for years. But then having the magazine sort of kind of linked to the TV programme as well. I bought a lot of those over the years, but it gave me a form of acceptance. It sort of, I wasn't just a weird kid at school. I was a weird kid part, but I had a group of people. And Top Gear, it always did have an entertainment element about it, because that's how you keep your viewers, like the original challenge video where it was £100 cars. The £100 cars, if that sounds like 8, it's £100 cars. That was a fantastic challenge, and still one of my absolute favourites. Clarkson coming from behind to win with a car he bought for £1. Absolutely insane. £1,500 Porsches, £1,500 coupes that were not Porsches. The British Leyland Challenge, they were all fantastic. Some of my favourite reviews have been things that they've done. I absolutely love Clarkson's review of the Ferrari F430, still love one of those in my dream car garage. Hammond driving the F40 in 959, granted that's sort of more into what I would class as the entertainment era of Top Gear. Top Gear, in my mind, had two phases, and I think a lot of people view it the same. There was the pre-Richard Hammond crash, and then there was post-Richard Hammond crash. Now, pre-Richard Hammond crash, like I say, sort of bumbled along as a motoring programme, bit of entertainment element, gaining a slightly bigger audience as it went. Not massively big, but I'm guessing the viewing figures were going the right way for the programme to still be being made. But then Richard Hammond's crash, and then the media hoo-ha that surrounded it all, and I'll just, again, not hoo-ha as in, what they were doing, it was a very serious accident. And then when you hear him talk about it, even now on things like Drive Tribe, it sounds like it still haunts him to a point now. It changed the programme dramatically, and there are bits of it that if it was ever staged before Richard Hammond's accident, it mastered its staging a lot better, / it's aged better than some of the post-Hammond crash stuff. Now, not to say that some of the post-Hammond crash stuff was bad. His resurfacing road in 24 hours, that was good. That was a good feature. Bugatti versus Plane, which I can't remember if that was post-Hammond's crash, but that was a very good piece, and it shaped motoring journalism and vlogging, whatever you want to call it. It shaped that for an entire generation. And to borrow the words of Taylor Hetherington, on, oh, what's your title? It's a podcast. I was listening, so that's watching. Can't remember what number it was. It's the one where, I believe it was the one where it's titled "The Shark Wrote Off My Car." He said, you know, people just dropping quotes from it, like, we'll be landing somewhere, and I quote, maybe Lil. Things like that sort of shaped a generation older. That's not gone well. That's insane. I did gradually fall out of love with Top Gear as it went, and some of it had to do with its increasing popularity. The India special really didn't sit well with me. I watched that when I was at Union. Friend Mikey and I both thought perhaps that's the end of Top Gear is coming. Although he was a lot more still pro Top Gear at that point, I was sort of more on the nah, I think it's done side of the fence. I would say probably for at one point I had, to show how long ago this was, I had bought a VHS tape. It was a long VHS tape as well. I think it was a 3-hour tape, and I did it on long play. I was able to get the entire series onto one tape. And I watched that again and again and again in its off season. And then I believe I just taped over it for the next season, but doing everything, including hitting record at the first possible moment, rather than relying on Video Plus or set a timer to record. It was, yeah, different times. Makes me sound really old, which it's actually not that long ago, alarmingly, in terms of technology. Some of my favourite things from Top Gear, like I say, the £1 cars, all those other challenges, the Africa special where they did those cars across Botswana, that was brilliant. The America special, the Vietnam special was very good. The America special, I can't remember whether they came out with it for anything or not, or what the budget was. I think it was Fly Drive, Holiday for Less Than You Could rent a car for, if I remember rightly. That was the Cadillac, the Dodge pickup truck, and the Chevrolet Camaro. Challenge, and that brought the infamous he'd have gone somewhere and gone hello, and he'd have been shot comments from Clarkson. But they were really good. One segment I did love, it was a Jaguar XKR, Porsche 911 and BMW 6 Series on Pendine Sands. That's going back a long time now, but I love that. Ferrari 612 Scaglietti to Verbier, the Aston Martin TB9 versus Train. They're both fantastic segments. SLR versus Boat to Oslo. That was a very good one. Fantastic piece of, it's a fantastic segment. But like I said, after Hammond's crash, it's a double-edged sword, because they had to take advantage of the situation, as in it was almost giving them a blank check to do what they want, and they had to double down on it, because if once the media interest in Hammond post-crash died down, they couldn't guarantee it would keep the same viewership. So the fact it did and grew and became one of the biggest programs in the world was it was amazing. My love for the program did start to tail off. I did start to prefer Top Gear USA with the Rutledge Wood, Tanner Faust and Adam Ferrara trio, because at one point they'd gone back to how old British Top Gear was. But when I've rewatched some of those episodes recently, you can sort of see the quality dipping in some of those programs. Not to take any away from the original American trio, because I thought they were very, very good, and I'd still love to. I did ask Rutledge and Adam to be interviewed as part of a Velocity Kinetics blog years ago, and I sent them the questions. I never heard anything back, but I appreciate. I think Rutledge had, was it his from Rust to Riches? No, it wasn't Rust to Riches. Lost in Transmission. I believe it was he had that program going on, so I appreciate he had production and his NASCAR commitments as well. Adam had his comedy commitments, and I believe I asked Tanner and got nothing, but I believe he had lots of commitments for Volkswagen at the time. After I dropped out of Top, I have to admit I did drop out of Top Gear, because Clarkson, the three of them, May the least, because I watched most of May's separate programs like James May on Toys and things, because I started to not like and it was very hard to sort of drop out something I loved, but it was also because it was just, for me, it stopped being about cars. It became about personalities, scripted jokes, or at least less well hidden scripting. That's probably the best way to describe it. Thus, after the India special, my love for the programme sort of waned a bit. I can't remember exactly where I dropped out of Top Gear, but at the same time there did come a point when it was on. I had a lot of work commitments, so the time to watch it just was never there. I never really watched it after the incident where Clarkson etc. left the BBC. I never went back to watching it because I'd applied to be one of the presenters on it, and I believe I made it quite a long way through because I had quite a few emails about my video, and I believe at the time it was the guy, if I remember from the Top Gear magazine correctly, I believe the guy was actually quite a senior editor in the magazine side of things, so it was reassuring that I was getting looked at and not just lost in some sort of AI-driven auto-sifting void. Granted, AI was not as big a thing as it seems to be now, but you get what I mean. But I never watched the programme afterwards because I was just worried it was always going to be never quite what I wanted it to be. I believe Matt LeBlanc was a good presenter for the programme because he is a petrol head. And then when Chris Harris joined, I could never quite bring myself to watch it. I did love Chris Harris's YouTube channel and the videos he did. I haven't watched any of his stuff for quite a long time now, actually, thinking about it. But I did love his stuff. I did love Paddy McGuinness as a comedian, especially Phoenix Nights, Max and Paddy's Road to Nowhere. Wasn't much of a Flintoff fan, but I never watched any of the newer stuff because I just couldn't bring myself to potentially watch something that I loved and couldn't bear to watch. I also, this might sound silly talking about this given that I'm doing a video about Top Gear and the presenters. Might sound silly to say this, but I haven't watched the Grand Tour either. Combination of because of it being on Amazon Prime, I didn't have Prime, so I couldn't watch it legally. If I was going to watch it, then I was like, no, I'm not going to acquire it through other channels or get a questionable YouTube feed for it. I was going to watch it properly. And I never got around to it, I never did, but I got into Drive Tribe and saw some of the videos through that. Richard Hammond has sort of come back to being one of my favourites, and I've got a lot of time for Hammond. I've got a lot of time to watch his stuff, and again, I'd like to watch his workshop programme, but I can't. I forgot, I'm not paying for another streaming service to only watch that programme, because there's nothing else on there at the moment that I'd like to watch. So, not paying, is it £15 a month for Discovery Plus to be able to watch it? Unless some of the older stuff's now free, I'd have to log back in now. It's been a long time, but still. Sort of fallen back in love with the way Hammond does car reviews, and you have to say that when he's done the M5 review, when they were getting rid of that, the Jaguar XKR review, when he's reviewed his 911 Turbo. The man just bleeds petrol. Clarkson and May, they also bleed petrol, but not quite the same anymore. But I guess that's because, as people sort of mentioned in podcasts and they sort of allude to in interviews, they've had their fill. They're done, it's time for the next generation. Will we see Top Gear back again? I'd love to think so. But realistically, and again, I'm mentioning also Alex here because again, I watch a lot of his stuff. They sort of alluded to it on their podcasts. Like, they're not sure whether it could ever actually come back as it was, because the May, Hammond, Clarkson trio was unique. You had sort of James May's slower, pedantic, do it properly mentality. You had Hammond and Clarkson. You had Clarkson on the other end, who was impatient, fast driver, very passionate, but do it as quickly as you could. And then you had Hammond, who was in the middle, who would go both ways. Hammond, I would say, was a good mediator, shall we say, for the Clarkson and the May personalities. I don't think it can come back as was, because, like I say, those three set such a high bar. Anything bearing the Top Gear name is going to be automatically compared to that. The format that Clarkson thought out for the return of Top Gear back in the early 2000s is the format, and I personally think that is the best format, because even, like I say, early Top Gear USA followed a similar format. It was sort of intro, here's a review, or it goes intro, Here's a review slash the start of a challenge. Here's the celebrity. Here's a review. Here's the rest of the challenge. That sort of format is probably peak, with a few additions here and there. In some ways, I was thinking this the other day, perhaps Top Gear USA wasn't early with how it became just one challenge per episode, sort of one feature per episode. Perhaps that became the testbed for what became the Grand Tour. Top Gear could come back in a... I have to agree with the Auto Alex podcast crew on this one. If Top Gear comes back, it'll have to be a roving, rotating crew of presenters, because I don't think you're going to ever match those three personalities. Ever. Now, don't get me wrong, if certain personalities in that rotating cast gain more viewers, they will be on it more than others who aren't, or don't get the same views. Would I love to be a Top Gear presenter myself? It's still the childish dream I hold on to, and on the one hand, my introverted self thinks, I don't think I could. Oh, that was the cat coming down off the fence. Part of my introverted self thinks, no, I couldn't cope in that environment. Being quite inwards in myself, sometimes a bit backwards in coming forwards. Not intending to be, but sometimes when I watch back videos where I thought I was being quite expressive, turning out to be quite monotone. Not for lack of trying, like I said, from my ears, I don't sound monotone myself, but you know, perhaps not the most engaging of presenting styles. But at the same time, I'd also think I'd rise to the challenge, I'd find my feet, and I'd listen to any feedback I was given, and you know, as you would do with any job, you'd find a way to make it work, wouldn't you? But who would present Top Gear? Not putting myself into the equation. You've got a difficulty there, because YouTube, I think, for cars is now the place to go, not a TV programme, because I think Fifth Gear is struggling with getting viewers and things these days. But who would present it? Now, there are the likes of Tiffany Dell, who would be very good, but again, you'd have to bracket them in the Clarkson bracket. And then do you go for the cliche racing driver, petrol head, and just general celebrity? Do you go for all celebrities just to get the views in? Do you go with petrol heads, and so on and so forth? In terms of presenting style and things, across the spectrum, I would think, again, I'm adding the caveat here of not including myself into this, so someone other than me. Well, actually, I'm going to include myself in this first one, actually. I'm going to roll back on what I was saying. Ironic saying do a rollback, and I mean that as in my teams this morning, even though the Sun's been flooded with messages from someone saying they've had to roll back a change over the weekend. Not good. If I was to present Top Gear, then who else would I want? I would want, I think, Taylor Hetherington from Auto Alex, because I like his presenting style. He's very engaging, he's very knowledgeable, he's a good mechanic. You need someone with that sort of knowledge in the background. And I think I would probably go for the cliche racing driver part of that. But as to who, a bit of me would like to say someone like Jenson Button, but that would potentially just be doing it to draw. You could easily be accused of you just trying to draw in views by going for someone like JB. But I think he would be a very good presenter. If it was a few years ago, I probably would have gone with Martin Brundle. Again, or David Coulthard. But if we're trying to give the programme younger presenters to give it as much longevity as possible, I would probably pick... I'm going to go Tanner Faust for that one. Because I liked how he presented things on Top Gear USA. He's a really good driver. He's very engaging, very knowledgeable, very technical. I think the three of us would actually make quite a good trio for all that. But pulling myself out of that thing, and if it was going to go sort of the YouTube route, because you've got the likes of Tavares, Auto Alex, Matt Armstrong, I can't remember what the guy's name is who does... Oh, what the hell is his... Well, battery died on the camera. That did not go very well. But the guy from CarWow, that was the other name I was struggling to think at the end of that video. So the guy from CarWow would probably be would be up there as well. But if we're picking out of sort of YouTuber things, I would say JM on cars. Probably, even though he said he wouldn't want to do it, I'm just talking about in terms of personality, you'd have to pick Auto Alex. And again, I'd like to say Taylor, but if we're going to sort of restrict ourselves, I'd probably put Auto Alex, the guy from Car Wow, and JM on cars. That would be a good trio, in my opinion. Again, avoiding the cliche of, whilst I would also like to say Ben Collins, because the man bleeds petrol. Was the Stig and will forever be the Stig. You can avoid the cliche. But yeah, that'd be who I would have. So the end of the Grand Tour really is the end of an era for a lot of petrol heads, and the end of an era for a lot of car influencing, journalistic influencing. I don't mean as in what the influencer term we associate with social media today. Whilst I fell out of love with Top Gear for years, it still holds a big place in my heart. Like I say, it still holds a lot of good memories, positive memories, and general reinforcement from difficult times. Well, difficult as in working out who I was and just embracing who I am now. And in many ways, even though Velocity Kinetics is just me and a camera and more of a way for me to vent and not really turning it into anything big, it sort of has had its influences on that, and it's influenced how I wrote for Netcars, it influenced how I wrote for Pure Racing Fuel, it influenced some of the early written pieces for Velocity Kinetics as well. And the same when Russ was alive. The couple of early pieces he did, they were sort of influenced by that, and Top Gear had influenced him as well. So, there we are. It's the end of an era. I think now dawns the YouTube age of Top Gear-ish productions. Best moment? Oh, I thought you'd hop the fence. Sorry, one of my cats. Let's see if we can see very often. Izzy! Kelly! Sorry, so she's, I thought she'd hop the fence. She doesn't do that very often, but no, she's just, chilling. Just chilling, just vibing. If I sign this video off as sort of a farewell Top Gear, farewell that trio, you've influenced everyone, whether we liked you or not, fully towards the end. You did influence us all. Single best moment, apart from all the Hammond or Clarkson sort of moments that happened over the years. Or, May, I'm gonna feed you to your own machine. Farming episode. When James May dumped all the seed, having spent hours allegedly doing all these pre-checks. It is hard to pick a single moment, but I think if I had to, someone said you're gonna sit down and watch something with the three of them, what one would you pick? Mercedes McLaren to Oslo. Single-handedly the most, for me. Granted, it's very close between that and the Ferrari 612 Scaglietti to Verbier. But that one, based on the number of times I've rewatched it over the years, my favourite. And favourite individual car review, probably F430. Granted, I do love my Koenigseggs, but F430. Thank you guys. You gave us something to be aspiring to and to daydream about from Velocity Kinetics and all petrol heads. Thank you.